Hello students. If you were to look at an old photograph of yours, say a 5-year-old photograph, you will realize how different you are now and the changes that had happened to your body since then. You are growing day by day. Similarly, plants are growing. Small seeds are growing into sky-length trees. All living organisms need food for the growth and repair of the body. Your parents might restrict you from eating junk food, saying it has zero nutritional value. Have you ever wondered what does that mean, nutrition? Let's learn about that. You might be aware about carbohydrates, proteins, fats, minerals and vitamins, which are the components of food. These components of food are very essential for our body and they are altogether known as nutrients. All living organisms need food for their growth, but only plants can synthesize their own food from its surroundings. All the other animals, including humans, have to depend upon plants for their survival. Plants can synthesize their own food by using sunlight, water, and carbon dioxide from the surroundings. Nutrition is the mode of taking food by an organism and its utilization by the body. Nutrients are very important to our body, which help in growth, provide energy for all the actions, and repair the damaged parts. The organisms which can synthesize the food by using sunlight, carbon dioxide and simple chemicals are known as autotrophs. Autotrophs can synthesize their own food. Auto means self and trophos mean nourishment. They are also called producers. Plants are producers. The organisms which eat other plants and animals for their energy and nutrients are called heterotrophic organisms or heterotrophs. Other than plants, all the other organisms come under heterotrophs. Hetero means other. The organisms that can synthesize their own food are called autotrophs. Examples are plants. Heterotrophs are the organisms that feed on other plants and animals for their energy and nutrients. All the animals, including humans, are examples of heterotrophs. The process in which plants prepare their own food is called photosynthesis. The food factory in plants are the leaves. That means food is prepared in the leaves. For the preparation to be carried out, the raw materials such as sunlight, carbon dioxide and water should reach the leaves. Roots absorb water and nutrients from the soil, but these should reach the leaves for the synthesis of food. For that, there are tiny pipe-like passages running throughout the leaves, roots and stem. There are passages that running throughout the stem, roots and these leaves. These tiny pipe-like passages are called vessels. There are two types of vessels, xylem vessel and phloem vessel. Through these vessels, water and minerals reach the leaves. Another raw material for photosynthesis is carbon dioxide. There are small pores on the leaf surface for the gas exchange in the plants. These pores are called stomata. Plants lose water through a process called transpiration through these stomata. These pores are guarded by guard cells. Here you can see the stomata, the pores in the leaves. This is the stomata and these are the guard cells, two kidney-shaped cells. They are called the guard cells. Through these stomata, the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere reaches the leaves. The leaves have green color pigment in them. This green pigment is known as the chlorophyll. Chlorophyll helps the leaves to capture the energy from sunlight. This energy is used to prepare food by using water and carbon dioxide. As this process is happening in the presence of sunlight, it is known as photosynthesis. Photo means light, synthesis means to combine. So, in the presence of sunlight, water and carbon dioxide is combined to produce carbohydrates. We can express the process like this. Carbon dioxide plus water will give carbohydrate plus oxygen. So that means oxygen is released during this process, which is essential for the survival of all organisms. This oxygen is released into the atmosphere through this stomata. Oxygen is released into the atmosphere through stomata, and through stomata carbon dioxide reaches into the leaves. The food produced in plants is stored in the form of starch. Starch is also a carbohydrate. Starch is manufactured in leaves from the extra glucose produced during photosynthesis. This is a stored food. Starch is the stored food. In other words, we can say plants store energy from the sun. The sun is the ultimate energy source of all living organisms. Now we know that the green leaves contain chlorophyll and this will enable them to perform photosynthesis. But what about the leaves with other colors like red, brown, etc.? Will they able to perform photosynthesis? Yes, they will be able to perform photosynthesis as they contain chlorophyll as well. But we cannot see the green color as the other color pigments like red, purple and brown will mask the green color. Have you seen the green patches in lakes and ponds? They are called algae. Algae are plant-like living things. They lack roots, stems and leaves. These algae are green in color due to the presence of chlorophyll, and due to the presence of this chlorophyll, they are able to perform photosynthesis. We learned that plants prepare carbohydrates through photosynthesis. Carbohydrates are made from carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. But proteins are made up of nitrogenous substances. Plants need this protein as well. Let's see how plants get nitrogen to synthesize these proteins. Nitrogen is present in the atmosphere in large quantity, but plants cannot absorb this nitrogen as it is from the atmosphere. The nitrogen should be converted into nitrite and nitrate for the absorption by plants. Nitrogen should be converted into nitrite and nitrate for the absorption by plants. Then only plants can use this nitrogen to synthesize proteins. This can be done with the help of certain bacteria which are present in the soil and root nodules of leguminous plants like pea plant. Here you can see the pea plant and the root nodules in the pea plant. The nodules in the roots of pea plant contain some bacteria called nitrogen fixing bacteria or Rhizobium bacteria. They convert nitrogen into nitrogen compounds which can be readily absorbed by the plants. Thus plants get nitrogen and they can synthesize proteins. You might be aware that farmers use fertilizers for the better growth of plants. These fertilizers are rich in nitrogen. This way the plants can fulfill the requirement of nitrogen. Are you familiar with the term parasite? Organisms that are living on another organism and derive the nutrients and food from that organism is called a parasite. You can see here a cuscuta plant. This thread-like plant, this yellow thread-like plant, this is the cuscuta plant. This plant does not possess chlorophyll. Without chlorophyll, they cannot synthesize their own food. Hence, they have to depend upon other plants for their survival. Cuscuta twine around the stem and branches of a tree and then derive the food and nutrients from that tree. Here, this tree is the host and Cuscuta is the parasite. Cuscuta is the parasite here. As it twine around the tree and derive the food and nutrients from that tree, Cuscuta is a parasite. Till now, we learned that all animals feed on plants for their survival. But have you heard about animal eating plants? There are some plants which eat small insects. They are called insectivorous plants. Example is pitcher plant. Here you can see some jug-like structures. These are called pitchers. These are actually modified leaf part. The apex of leaf forms a lid-like structure. This lid can open and close and it will help to trap the insect inside the pitcher. Inside the pitcher there are hairs which are directed downwards. When an insect lands on the pitcher, the lid gets closed and the insects will be entangled in hairs. They cannot escape from these hairs. Digestive juices are secreted inside the pitcher. These digestive juices will digest the insects and the nutrients are absorbed. The insectivorous plants generally grow in nitrogen deficient soil. Hence, they have to depend upon other animals to fulfill the nitrogen requirement. Have you heard about a group of organisms called fungi? Most of the fungi are microscopic. That means they cannot be seen with the naked eye. We need a microscope to see them. But the example of a fungus that we can see with the naked eye is mushroom. You might have seen your parents bringing in mushrooms in packets from the market. Or you might have seen them growing in the soil or on dead trees and rotting wood. Another example of fungus is mold found on bread. They grow on the bread in humid environment. If we observe a part of the bread under microscope, we can see thread-like fungus. These fungi have microscopic particles in them called spores. These spores allow them to reproduce. Fungal spores are generally present in the air. When they land on wet and warm things, they germinate and grow. Fungi don't have green color pigment, chlorophyll, and they cannot synthesize their own food because they don't have the chlorophyll. They absorb nutrients from the dead and decaying organic matter. This kind of nutrition is called saprotrophic nutrition and they are called saprotrophs. They derive their nourishment from the dead organic matter. Mushrooms absorb nutrients from the decaying wood on which they grow, and like that bread mold get nutrients from bread. Fungi also grows on pickles, leathers, clothes and other objects that are left in hot and humid weather for a long time. Fungi can cause disease in plants, animals and humans. But they are useful as well. Do you know the first antibiotic penicillin was produced by a fungus? Parasites are organisms that derive nourishment from other organisms. But saprotrophs derive nourishment from dead organic matter. There is a kind of relationship between two organisms called symbiosis. Two organisms live together and share both shelter and nutrients. There are different kinds of symbiotic relationship. In some, both the organisms get benefited, and in other relationships, only one gets the benefit. Example of symbiotic relationship is lichens. Lichens can be seen on exposed rocks and desert soils. They are a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungus. Lichens are a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungus. We already learned that algae are green in color, they have chlorophyll and they can synthesize their own carbohydrates. They can synthesize their own carbohydrates. These carbohydrates are used by the fungus as well. In return for this favor, the fungus provide shelter, water and minerals to the algae. We learned earlier the bacteria that lives in the root nodules of the leguminous plant convert atmospheric nitrogen into usable nitrogen compounds for plant root. Plants in turn provide food and shelter to these bacteria. Hence, it is a symbiotic relationship. You might have seen adding manure to the pots in your garden. Similarly, farmers add fertilizer in the farming land. Do you know the reason behind this? Plants absorb the nutrients from the soil during their growth. As a result, the amount of minerals and nutrients in soil declines. To rectify this problem, fertilizers were added to soil. Fertilizers are rich in nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, etc. These nutrients are added to soil from time to time to enrich the soil. Farmers can reduce the use of nitrogen-rich fertilizers where leguminous plants are grown. As the leguminous plant root contain Rhizobium bacteria, which convert atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogen compounds, the plants will get enough nitrogen for their growth. Here, we can reduce the use of fertilizers. That's it about the chapter Nutrition in Plants. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. If you have any queries, put it in the comment box. Thank you.